What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is the King and I Life podcast with your boy, Soul Toucher, the poet, and my homie, my brother.
Sun Soul Legs.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, hey, as you know, you can find us on all of those podcast platforms, including Apple subscriptions coming soon. You can find us on all those social media platforms as well. Hashtag King and I Life podcast, Sun Soul Legs. Hit them with the rest of that.
Yeah, you guys can also reach us at KINGANDEYE at 369 at gmail.com. Again, that's King and I at 369 at gmail.com. And again, thanks for all of the emails we have been receiving. Positive, we appreciate it. And the constructive criticism, we appreciate that too. That's what's up.
Yes, that's what's up. That's what's up. Hey, look. I think this is one of Sun Soul Lex's signature topics. um and this is one that we lovingly, go back and forth on. I won't say debate because we have so many related viewpoints, just different approaches, man. Just different approaches on it.
Yep. True that. But I think this is one that people have on their mind, but it's very rarely talked about for whatever reason. But it's out there. So without any further ado, the topic for tonight is, can we have true change in America, the United States, without a revolution?
This is gonna be an interesting topic.
Yes.
Oh man, I don't even know what to say off the break. I want to say yes, but then I look at the way everyone in America is changing, and then I want to say no. Um, and then I think it's sad that this is even these are our options, with or without a revolution for true change in America.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is I know this isn't exactly the best country in the world, um, in some people's eyes, and then in other people's eyes, this is better than a pot of gold. It just comes down to each individual and how they see this nation and life that's led here. I will say nothing worth having will come easy. So
True.
when I hear people say, it's time for a revolution and it's time for things to change in our nation, I get their frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain point, I agree with it. But it's like anything and everything else, how you always say, there's a smart way to do everything. And this is definitely one of those things that, you got to be smart about that shit. Meaning there are going to be some things that are going to require uh, damn near life and death situations. But nothing's going to change without people coming and being on one accord and saying, this is what we want. And we don't want to wait until later. We want that shit now.
True.
So anytime you have a revolution, you're basically saying you have a war to a certain extent. Um, whether that be a civil war, you can call it that. Like they say, one man's freedom fighter is another man's paid assassin. It just all depends on how you look at it. But I'll say for me, I think that a change is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But will I be alive to see that change? I don't know. I really don't know. I think people will make the necessary change when they're fed up. And right now, I don't think people are fed up enough.
um, to add to that, and we'll get into some definitions to put this conversation into a little more context and for us to expand upon our thoughts.
Right.
Um, People are fed up. Um, People in different communities, the nation as a whole, small groups, counties, states, people are fed up. The problem is, um, people are not exercising the smart way to do things. Now, when you think of revolution, um, you automatically think of war, uh, rightfully so. But there is a type of revolution that doesn't necessarily involve war. It doesn't not involve bloodshed.
Right.
Um, but I think that a lot of people are under the assumption that we are still operating in a medieval climate or um, a highly racially divided climate, um, which is overall not the case. Um, but I think people just refuse. They refuse. I'm not going to say they can't.
Right.
They refuse to work together in order to bring about the necessary change that many of us need, many of us desire, and many of us hope to see. That's my opinion.
For sure. For definition, what we have here is revolution, a forcible overthrow of a government or social order in favor of a new system. Now, when I hear that, I think ain't no way in hell.
I already know where you're going with this.
Ain't no way in hell. I don't give a damn how many guns you think you got, how many rocket launchers you think you got, how many tanks, so on and so forth. The technology that we, meaning the people, have is ancient compared to what governments around the world have. And this country is one of the most advanced countries when it comes down to weaponry. So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying that at all. But it's going to take a hell of a lot more than just the average, what we call self defense weaponry nowadays. And again, I don't think that it has to be done that way. I think people, if they could just come together and agree on a few things, I'll just say three things, just three motherfucking things. Ain't gotta be a whole boatload of goddamn things. Just three motherfucking things. That's when you have a foundation to start even going in the direction of a fucking revolution. But
um, Revolution, by definition, in the context of this conversation,
mhm,
I am going to say the United States is too good for that to happen in current times. What I mean by that is, although the people who are operating our governmental structure, I'm not
Hmm.
going to say our government system, the
Right.
people who are operating our government structure may not be the best people in place. Okay. Because our government system can work. It can work. But the people in place are what's tarnishing it. But what I was going to say is our system is set up to where a revolution by definition will not happen unless we have a total collapse of our governmental system. And I don't see that. And I say that because we've had January 6th, which was ridiculous. They attempted a revolution, so to speak, and it did not happen. Um, Now, when you look at places like Afghanistan, where it's like we leave, they fall in less than a week, that right there, that type of revolution is not going to happen here. Um, so I agree, you know, agree on a few significant things and then allow everything else to fall in place. Therefore, we won't have to have this revolution mindset. That's just my opinion on that one.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. Um, Overthrow, removal from power. Oh, that's the next one. Um, Again, with this uh, government that we have in place, with everything that they have going on, it's a perfect chaos wrapped up in a bow tie where we think that things are really under control, and they are to a certain extent. But there are so many things that are out of control that we want change, but aren't willing to do what's necessary to change. Um, I could go back to the whole voting system and say, if we all just got together and voted on one thing that we all freaking agree on, we can make a change. But then on the flip side of that, I could say, let's not vote on shit, because when we vote, yes, it's saying that we're on one accord. But on the other side of that, it's saying that we are agreeing to go along with what we think will make everybody happy. And that's damn near impossible to make everybody fucking happy. Damn near impossible. But the removal of the powers at hand, or um, that are in play right now, is going to take damn near an act of freaking God, and whatever God you believe in. It's going to take something way bigger than just the people. Again, when you have so many different mindsets and so many different viewpoints, it makes it terribly difficult to come together on one fucking idea. You're just not going to get everyone to go along with, well, let's remove total everything that's in play right now. Let's remove all that shit. No, they're not going to do that, because either which way you go, you're going to have some type of fucking chaos. You're going to have some type of chaos before you can get to peace. And people just don't want to face the chaos. And like, nah, leave that shit in place right now. That's the way some people think, but again, the government that's in place now, look how long they've been in power here. And I'm not just talking about within the confines of our own nation. Look at their power around the world, son. That shit is fucking amazing. I've gone to several different places and several different countries, and I'd be like, God damn, am I in fucking California right now? Some shit. It's scary how people have lost what made them, meaning what made their country, because they want to be so much like our nation. And again, there's no disrespect to any of those countries because I'm not going to name names. You know, I don't do that. But it just is what it is.
So when I look at overthrow, which is the removal from power, um, for me that is removing an individual out of their position. For instance, a governor, a president, or something like that. Um, that is how I see that.
Hmm.
Um, and to put that into context for what you were saying, um, in order to scrap a system, you first have to remove individuals from power. You have to overthrow the government. So a group of people or whatever organization, whatever. Let's just take a state for example.
Right.
Let's just say the people in Texas were fed up with what the governor was doing, especially with all these abortion things, this, that, and the other. So you have this group of people, they come in, they run him up out of office or whatever the case may be. They run, all his people out of office and they take over and they say, all right, now that we've overthrown him from power, now we're going to change this to something else. Again, it's not going to happen in America. It's just not going to happen. Um, Now, by because when you look at the word overthrow,
Hmm.
um, we are we are conditioned to look at that is like it happens in you know Afghanistan and like when the the when Russia fell apart and now it's all these independent countries, this, that, and other. When we look at overthrow, that's how we look at it. And again, something like that is not going to happen here unless something like this whole thing just has to collapse in order for that to happen. Because we've been through too many periods in this country to where people have tried to, like the South tried to overthrow the North because they wanted to keep slavery, this, that, and the other, and it did not happen. Um, Not saying that it can't happen, it just did not happen for whatever reason. And pretty much like you're saying, you probably have to take an act of God or whoever people pray to. um but by the graces of whatever, that didn't happen and we've progressed forward. Yes, we've had presidents assassinated, this, that, and the other, but the way our system is set up, you can remove someone from power without an overthrow, by the definition that we recognize. It's just that if enough people with in the right places feel that someone is not worthy of being in that position, they can be pretty much voted out, removed from power, overthrow, however you want to look at it. Like they attempted to um, get rid of the last guy twice. But you had enough people who was like, oh no, he's a good guy. So he survived two impeachments. Um, like you had Richard Nixon, who had all of that going on. He was removed from power. So technically that could be looked at as an overthrow. The same thing with Bill Clinton. They tried to remove him from power. So, in a sense, that was an attempt at an overthrow. But is enough people that was like, nah, he did this, that, and the other, but it wasn't that serious to where it was detrimental to how he was in charge of the country. I'm not going to say ruling the country because we don't have rulers. We don't have that type of government here, but we have rulers that can be overthrown. So like in Europe and all that stuff, you had, let's just say the common people who got fed up and it was like, yeah, we're gonna overthrow. They would go to the castle, overthrow the king, queen, or whoever, and they would take over. So that when I see overthrow, that's how I look at it, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's not going to happen here from the best of my knowledge because the way we're set up, we have so many different fail safes that if let's just say this white supremacist group wants to go march on the Capitol and overthrow the government, it's like you got the police, you got the National Guard, you got all type of different entities to keep that from happening. So that's how I look at overthrow.
I can see that. I see that.
So let's jump to government.
All right.
Um, Governing body of a nation, state, or community. Um, this is significant in the grand scheme of this entire conversation to me because when you look at a governing body, we automatically look at the top of our government or political structure. We
Mm-hmm.
automatically look there and we automatically say, oh man, it's messed up. I ain't voting. I ain't doing this. I ain't doing that. But why this and why that? And, they ain't thinking about us and this, that, and the other. But we have to realize before we got to the government system that we have now, this started in communities. This started when people said, I'm going to leave from Europe and go over here because we don't agree with what's going on over there. So we're going to go over here and start our own thing. It started with uh, communities, it started with counties, it started with states, it started with areas and this, that, and the other. So when you look at that, you have to take into context the governmental structure from the ground level. The community is what really makes the starts the changes because we have to start from the bottom and go up. One of the biggest problems that you and I can agree on and that we see and have seen for years is that as people rise to the top, there are factors that corrupt their morals or whatever the case may be. And now you have this person who is corrupt by his political upbringing. And now this person is no longer in good favor with a large percentage of, whatever people that used to support him or whatever people are looking for that person to make the proper decisions that benefit us all or the less fortunate.
Sure. Um, I I will offer this up. Right. People often think that this nation was a land full of people unorganized and un how should I put this? They just didn't have any clue of what was going on.
Mhm.
I would beg to differ and ask people to do their own research. I'm not saying that there wasn't a government here. I'm not saying that there was a government here, but there was something here. It's what I'm saying.
Are you
Um,
talking before the?
yeah, before the pilgrims and all that supposedly took place.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because while you're saying that, I was thinking of something else. Go ahead.
But anyway, I think where we've gone wrong with this whole system is where we put people in place to supposedly represent us.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gotten away from the idea,
Mm-hmm.
meaning we place more faith in people than we do in ideas. We supposedly elect people to represent our districts and so on and so forth, and then get pissed when they don't do what it is that we desire, for whatever reason, whether it be their own selfish agendas or, big business or whatever. The thing that we've forgotten is we don't need a middleman to vote on an idea. What I'm saying is, if you and I say, okay, we want this building to be red, we want it to be red. So how in the hell or why in the hell would we go to someone else to paint the building red when you and I are capable of painting it ourselves? If we already agreed, our ideal is we want it red. So we basically taken the power out of our hands and placed it in the hands of someone we kind of subcontracted to do the work. But then when we come back, the motherfucker's blue. So we like, wait a minute, hold on now. Why in the hell is the damn building blue when we, looking at each other, agreed that we wanted it red? But then the subcontractor says, well, the red that you picked wasn't really to my liking. So, that's why I decided to go with blue. But here's your bill. The building is painted. You contracted me to paint the building. Although you picked your color, I decided my color was a little bit better. But anyway, that's what I think when it comes down to governing bodies and our communities. We basically given our power away to a certain extent. And of course, one could say that, no, we haven't. Well, yeah, we kind of have. But it's just a system that's before us. So again, until we decide that it's time for a change, things are going to continue to go in the same direction they're going in now.
Mm. Um, we have, man, we have barely gotten into this conversation about can we have true change in America without a revolution. I want to expand upon the government thing, but hey, like I said, we barely got into this conversation.
Jeez, man, that went by fast, didn't
Right, right. But
it?
yo, it's the King and I Life
Wow.
podcast. Soul Touch of the Poet here with my brother,
Son, so Lex,
and we will be right back at you
yes,
to
sir.
continue this
Guys, stay
conversation.
tuned.